go. All right, so what I just did here, I'll erase it again, is I want to get my line tool, and I want to draw a line through the 45s right there. And that's the line for 45 degrees north latitude. So let's go to the text box right over here and put a text box next to it. And let's label that 45 N for 45 degrees north. And we've got our first latitude line drawn for New York State. Does anybody have any questions? You set on that? John, I'm just checking with you. You good with that? Talia, you're okay with that? Alex, good. All right. So that's the 45 line. Now, if you scroll down a little bit more, we can find the 44 latitude line. And we're going to do the same exact thing. Get your line tool and just draw that line across the 44s. And we'll fix that up a little bit. Make sure it's just right up spot on. And there we go. And once you've done that, I'd like you to take your text box, stretch that out, something like that, and we'll type in 44. And for 44 north, I'm going to center that up a little bit better. All right, hey, folks at home, are you doing okay with this? Is everybody all right? No complaints? All right, let's move down to 43. Now, for the 43, I'm just going to slide my map over a little bit. You'll notice that to the west of Niagara Falls is a 43 cross, and then we have a 43 over here. We're going to connect those two to draw in our latitude line across New York State of 43. Okay, so there we go. We got the 43s there. And once you're set with that, let's label that 43 north. Just touching base with everybody in the class. Everybody's okay with that? So far, so good? All right, we have one more line to draw for now. Our last one we'll do is a 42. Oh, there's actually two more to draw. The 42 has to go all the way across your map, so you'll have to center your map. You'll see a 42 in the lower corner of the map and a 42 over here on the right. Use your line tool, put that down, draw that across. Got it? You got the longitude in a 42, and we're going to label that 42 degrees north longitude. Okay. And just raise that up and get that looking really good like that. Well, there is a 41, and it goes across Long Island, New York. We'll have to bring the map down to the corner here. And what you'll see is you'll see a 41 right on the very end of Long Island here and a 41 right over New York City. Let's line those two 41s up. It's giving me a tough time with this 41. Let's try this again. Delete. Okay, and we'll label that 41. So those are our major latitude lines across New York State. But we do have some other latitude lines that we've got to talk about. And we're going to label those as well. And these are known as the half lines. Okay? So here's how this is going to work. We're going to start up at the top, and you're going to see a little mark out here right next to the N in Lake Champlain. This is halfway in between 44 and 45. Halfway. And so is this plus sign with the 76. So I do want you to line those two up and draw your line through those two. Oops, let's do that again. Now, before we do the label, make your text box out here for your label on this. Of course, this is in between 44 and 45, right? So we know it's 44, but we don't call it 44.5. In degrees, we measure degrees by breaking degrees up into something called minutes of degrees. And how many minutes are there in an hour? Everybody knows that since fourth grade, right? 60. Well, it turns out that a degree is divided into 60 small sectors called minutes. So I got a question for you. How many minutes are there in a half an hour? Since fourth grade, you've known there's 30, right? So how many minutes are there in a half a degree? 30 minutes. We say there are 30 minutes in a half a degree. And think about it like this. How many minutes would there be in a quarter of an hour? Hopefully you'd get 15 minutes, right? 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. How many minutes are there in a quarter of a degree? 15 minutes. How many minutes are there in 3/4 of an hour? 45. How many minutes are there in 3/4 of a degree? 40. Now, minutes is a measurement of time, but it's also a measurement of angles. And the reason is because when time was first calculated, what did they use to calculate time? They used the sun, and they used the sun moving through the sky. So they used to measure the angular motion of the sun, and they'd call it that the sun moved a certain number of minutes. Later on, when we invented clocks and stuff, we took the angular measurement and turned it into a time measurement. How do you like that? Isn't that something? So if you're wondering where minutes and seconds came from, they actually came from measuring degrees of the sun moving along. Interesting, right? Okay, so getting back to this, what we do is we say this is 44, and instead of saying it's 44.5 degrees, we say it's 44 degrees 30 minutes. And that's how you write out your minutes. You make that little tiny apostrophe at the corner right there. So a half a degree is 30 minutes. Let's go down and put in the half mark for between 43 and 44. And for this, you'll notice there's a marking over here and a whole bunch of pluses right there. We're going to draw the line through those plus signs all the way through this marking right here. All right, and then we'll draw the box in here. Oops, I want to draw the box in here. And let's see, this is 43, but we don't write that it's 43.5. Alex, what are we going to write instead of 43.5? 43 degrees, 30 minutes. Okay, because a half of an hour is 30 minutes, and a half of a degree, because we're halfway in between the two, is going to be 30 minutes. And we'll put that little minute sign in there, and N for north. And let me just drag out this box, make it nice and big so it all fits in there and labels out fine. Okay, so now we got the halfway point between those two degrees. Now let's go between 42 and 43. And you'll see there's a little marking right here. Now there's a couple other marks that come out here, but those are just the boundaries of the state of Massachusetts. They're showing you where the boundaries are. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take the line tool and draw a line across New York State. That line is halfway in between the 42 and the 43. And a half a degree is 30 minutes. So what goes inside of this box right here? John, what do you think? What goes inside that box?
42.
Right, 42 degrees, 30 minutes north. I'll just lift that box up a little bit. That's better. Okay, now, in between the 42 that we drew and the 41 that we drew, you'll find a little cross right here and a little cross on the 75. That's going to be a halfway point for us to put in. So let's roll that across the screen like that. That's in between the 41 and the 42. And what goes in this box? Hey, Rob, what do you think goes in inside the box here? What you call? What's that? You don't know? Okay, so what is this in between? It's in between 41 and 42. So we know it's 41, right? Because we haven't got this line right here was our 41 line. This is our 42. And it's halfway in between. How many minutes is halfway in between to 1 degree? 30, right? So it's a 30-minute mark, and it is to the north. Now we have one more line to draw in, and you can see it down here in the very corner. They give it to you. They say 40 degrees, 30 minutes, and we'll have our last longitude line drawn in across the bottom here. 40 degrees, 30 minutes. We'll label that. Okay, so now we have all our latitudes listed, right? Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question and see if you can figure this out. I want everybody in here to find Slide Mountain. You see where Slide Mountain is? What latitude is Slide Mountain at? Dimitri? 42 degrees north, because the line goes directly through it. So it was really easy to get, right? Okay, let me give you another one. All right. Okay, can you find Oswego? Oswego's right here. About where, what latitude is Oswego about? What's it pretty close to? Okay, what do you think?
43.30.
It's really close to 43.30, right? Okay, so I'm hoping you get, like if I said, where's Watertown? You'd say, hey, it's really close to 44. Is that, Tilly, is that something you get at this point? Okay, let me give you another example. What is Messina close to? So you tell me, what is Messina close to in latitude? Let me see. Monica, could you help me with that? What is Messina close to as far as its latitude? Messina's right up here near the top. Okay, it's 45 degrees north. Okay, so you see Messina, it's close to the line, 45 degrees north. So normally, if I just asked you where is this located, you could give me a general idea. I hope you could with the latitudes. Sandy, what do you think? You understand how to get the latitudes of the cities? So here's Messina right over here, and it's pretty close to 40. It's close to the 45 line, right? So its latitude is 45. Let's just do one more, make sure we're okay. How about Syracuse? What is Syracuse's latitude? Just in general, Sandy. Excellent, 43 north. Thank you, Sandy. Make me real proud right there. Well, let's take a look. Now that we know a little bit about this map, let's take a look at the other part of this lesson. So I'd like everybody to just take a look at what I have on the board here. And we're going to open up this New York State Map Lab. This is going to take us 2 lab periods to do, or 2 periods to do. And please, the first thing I need for you to do is type your name in this yellow section right here, okay? Because when you get done, I have to print this out and actually kind of grade it on paper, okay? So folks at home, make sure you fill out that yellow section with your name. Now, I gave an extra map in here in case you want to redo the map, but you don't have to redo the map. We've already done the map on a separate page, okay? But let's take a look at what it says in the instructions. It says, draw in the major latitude lines and label them, add the 30-minute latitude lines and label them, and find the latitudes of the following cities to the nearest minute, and place your answers in the Google Doc attached. So let me see. I'm wondering, do you have the numbers in the Google Docs attached, or is that just my copy?
blank boxes.
You just have the blank boxes, right? All right, let me get rid of my numbers in here, and we'll go through this because it's important we go through this. Okay. All right, let me just copy that, Control copy, and make a bunch of these guys. Okay, let's take a look at the first village we want to look at. First one we want to look at is Elmira, New York. This is a beautiful little village in southwestern New York State. It's along, oh, I'm sorry, did I say Elmira? I meant the first one we want to look at is Niagara Falls. And this is also a beautiful, beautiful place to be. Of course, it's where Niagara Falls, New York is, right? The famous Niagara Falls you've all probably heard about. So let's find out where Niagara Falls is back on our other map. This map right here. And if I zip in on this map right here, Niagara Falls, come on in here, you're going to see Niagara Falls is represented by this dot, right? Whew. Okay, we're going to figure out Niagara Falls' latitude. Now, right now, what latitude is Niagara Falls near? What's the nearest latitude line for Niagara Falls? All right, let's find out. Sandy, you want to help us out again? It's 43 north, right? But we want to get a more exact number, and that number has to be with minutes. We're going to break this down into minutes. So this is 43 degrees, and over here I'm going to add a text box over here. This one over here is 43 degrees, 30 minutes. We just labeled that on the other side. Okay. So what we're going to do to solve this is we're going to do something that's called bisect and trisect. Here's how it works. Follow along, please, first. Take your line tool and find a place directly in between the two lines that surround Niagara Falls. So right in the middle, in between those two lines, I'm going to draw a line right in between the two of them. Okay? Now that line represents 43 degrees, 15 minutes. Why 43 degrees, 15 minutes? Yeah, Dimitra? Right, it's halfway in between 43 degrees 00 minutes and 43 degrees 30 minutes. So I bisected this and turned this line into 43:15. And now I'm going to do something called trisect. I'm going to find Niagara Falls' latitude by breaking this zone into 3 zones. So I'm going to make a line here and a line here. And I've kind of spaced these lines out so that I have 3 equal portions. So if I've broken that down into 3 equal portions, let's see. This is a tough question, but I think you can get it. I'd be really super proud of you if you can get this. Can you figure out what each line is worth in terms of minutes? Alex, is that something that you might be able to do?
15 minutes.
Well, this line is 15 minutes right here. So what is each one of these lines equal to? Do you think you know, Ken?
5 minutes.
Terrific. 5 minutes. And it makes sense that if I take 15 and I divide it into 3 portions, it's 15 divided by 3, it's 5. So take a look at where Niagara Falls sits. It sits right above 43 degrees 5 minutes. We could estimate how many minutes above that do you think that sits? Talia, what do you think? I can't repeat the question. Monica, what do you think? it's right above that first line. Well, the first line represents 5. Demetrio, what do you think?
Like a 6 or 7.
Like a 6 or 7. Okay, so let's go back to our answer key. And right in here, go up to Niagara Falls. I got to put the box in here. So we can do that. So much to do. Okay, just going to drag that box up. So what do we got for our final answer looking at our map? 43 degrees, 6 minutes, let's call it 6 minutes north. And the way we type that in is 43 space 06 apostrophe north. And there's our reading for Niagara Falls. Next city we want to take a look at is Elmira. So, by the way, for the folks at home, here's how I wrote in the answer: 4306 apostrophe N. Let's go take a look at Elmira, New York. Elmira is located right over here. Let's get some text boxes in here so we can mark what we have. This line over here is 42 degrees. This line over here is 42 degrees, 30 minutes. And we want to find Elmira's position. So the first thing we do is we bisect. Elmira's in between these two lines. So get your line tool and draw a line right there. Let's see if we've got this. Talia, what does this line in between the two lines represent? How many minutes of angle is that? 15, right? So this is a 42-15 line. And if we trisect this, split this up, one line here. Okay. And then trisect it again. Now we can figure out Elmira's latitude. So what would Elmira's latitude be? We know it's 42, but how many minutes? 42 and how many minutes would it be? Right. Jared, what do you think about that? 42 and how many minutes? Okay, so I know you came back a little late. It's going to be a little tricky on you. But let's see if I can explain it to you, and hopefully it'll help everybody. When we have a degree, a single degree, we break it down into 60 minutes, just like we break an hour down in 60 minutes. Half an hour is 30 minutes. A half a degree is 30 minutes. A quarter of an hour is 15 minutes. I almost said 30. A quarter of an hour is 15 minutes. A quarter of a degree is 15 minutes. So what we did here is we broke these. This was 42. This was 43. So right in the middle, instead of saying 42 and a half, we said 42:30. We found Elmira. We bisected the two lines right here. So this line right here is 42:15. And then we trisect this. So this is 42, this is 42:05, this is 42:10, this is 42:15. And since this is going right through Elmira, this bottom line here, or that line that you see, what would the reading be right there? 42 and how many minutes? Still don't get it. Well, that's probably something you should, I'm videotaping my lesson today, so probably if you should go back and listen to it if you don't get it by the end. Demetrio, what is it?
I got 42:05.
It would be 42:05, because each of the little lines is worth 5 minutes, and this one goes right through Elmira. So, folks, on the tab over here, I bisected the center right here. That gave me 4215. Jared, I'm going over this one more time for you, okay? So this is 4215 in between 42 and 4230, okay? Right in between 0 and 30 is 15. And then I trisected down here, so I took that 15 and divided by 3, so that each one of these is worth 5 minutes of time. So when Dimitro says that our answer is 4205, it makes sense that here's the 42 plus the 5 minutes of degree latitude. Going back over here, 42 space 05 minutes space north. Okay, let's go to the beautiful city of Binghamton, which does have a SUNY college campus there. And let's take a look at Binghamton. Binghamton is pretty close to the 42 mark. And you can see on my map, I can still see where 42 line is and where 43 line is. The first thing I do is I bisect the two lines. So I'm going to draw a line through. Jared, that line represents right there 4215. Does that make sense now? A little bit? Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to now trisect underneath there. 1. Break this up into 3 even pieces. Okay. And I see one of the line goes through Binghamton. So what is the reading for Binghamton? Monica, do you know what the answer is? Rob, do you know? No. You're making me feel like a terrible teacher, you know. Like really terrible. I can't believe that you don't know this answer. It's not you as a student. It's got to be me as a teacher. I cannot believe this. Let's see. Ken, give me some spirit here. It's also 4205. All right. So Robert, do you understand why I'm getting the 05? No. It's really puzzling to me. Yes. It would work. And you know, when you do take a quiz or a test on this, it'll be multiple choice, and you'll see one of the answers is going to be
42 or 03.
You could go with an 03 or an 05 on this. They're pretty close. It's pretty close to that bottom line. So I'm going to go back to 42, and I'm going to call it an 05 on this. Okay, so 4205 again. Let's see if we can do a little bit better on the next one. And I'm really hoping I can do a better job teaching this. This is not going as well as I hoped, at least with my class over here. Okay, so for folks at home, here's what I've written in so far, and I'm ready to tackle Plattsburgh. Plattsburgh is a great town, and a great SUNY college is there. I actually got accepted to Plattsburgh. Was going to go there, but it just is a little bit too cold for me. It's all the way in the corner here. And so here's Plattsburgh, and we can easily see that Plattsburgh's in between 4430 and 45. So here's where Plattsburgh is. And the first thing we do is we bisect a line through. So let me do a little quick review here. If this is 4430, and as we go up, halfway through that, how many minutes would that be? 44. I'm hearing something out there. What was that?
Like 7.5. 7.
No, not 7.5. No. Well, in between a whole degree from 44 to 45 here, that would be 60 minutes of angular distance, right? So if this is 4430, I would count 31, 32, 33, 34. What would it be when I got all the way up to 45? I'd be up to 60, right? Because there's 60 degrees and 60 minutes in a degree. So what number would be in between? It would be 44 degrees. How many minutes?
25.
Nope, because we use minutes. On a clock, we only go up to 60 minutes and then we're to the next hour.
37.
Mm. What's that, Robert?
30?
Nope, we've got 44:30 down here.
37.
Nope. What do you think it is? It's 45. So when it comes to minutes, we never go up and over 60 minutes. And if you look at what we've got here, this would be 45. If I drew a line in between here and here, you don't have to draw this line. What would that line be right there? That would be 44:15. That'd be 44:30, 44:45. And there is no such thing as 44:60 because what happens when I get to 44:60? I'm back to 45. You get this. You get it.
Good
Okay.
afternoon.
Terrific.
At this time, B and D floors can dismiss.
All right,
Happy
so
Halloween.
folks,
Have a great weekend. Everyone
folks,
be
just
safe.
store this
Wear a
up.
mask.
Can I talk to the folks at home real quickly? On Monday, I'd like to see some of you come in for extra help, okay? Especially if your grades are really low and you need to make up work. I'm certainly not here to